Beginner and entry-level cameras, the Nikon D3300, the Canon Rebel T3i. When you first start with photography, you usually get a very similar camera to this. You're new, it's a beginner camera. Bada bing, bada boom, it makes sense. But the question is, can we still take good pictures with these beginner cameras? It's really 10 o'clock at night, and Eleni and I, we're in Birmingham, Michigan, shooting some nighttime portraiture with a Canon Rebel T3i. I wanted to quickly show you guys how easy it is, for the most part. Not easy, but like I know a lot of beginner photographers have a very similar camera setup to this, and I wanted to show you guys that you can still produce really, really high quality images without crazy expensive gear. Yeah, the expensive gear helps, but I'm here to show you today that you can take some really unique portraits and not necessarily the most expensive gear. So
he's showing you that your pictures or your camera isn't bad. You just need to lock the fuck in.
Lock in. Lock in. My ISO is gonna have to be 3200, I guess.
Hold on, I need a mirror. Hi guys.
I wanted to do kind of like one of these right here. Kind of like a cutesy. Your back's gonna be here looking this way. It's got a little flip out screen too. Would you look at that? there, hold on.
That sound is so ugly.
That sound is so ugly. Don't cross your legs. Have them straight and do this.
How are they looking at least? Is that a kit lens?
Yeah, it's a kit lens.
Okay.
That's not bad, right? Okay, can you hit one of these? Yeah, I like that. I'll wait for these people. Hold on. Right, I'm gonna come back a little bit, see if I can get some depth by zooming in, you know? Okay, let's switch around a little bit. Follow me. So instead of shooting backlit, I'm gonna use this as the light and have something else behind you that I'm not sure about yet. Okay, sit in this one. All right, one thing that I did bring was because I knew this is gonna be a kit lens, and I knew that it's gonna underperform what I want it to, I brought little fun things like prisms. This one might not fit. Actually, I can almost guarantee it's not gonna fit. I'm gonna try this guy. This might be too much. Oh, that's crazy looking. Let me grab you. Manual focus sucks, I'm not gonna lie, but we can do it. Artsy, cute. Maybe like a top down like this. Gotta grab focus again. Oh, this is actually not bad. I like this. Grab focus. I'll grab one without it. 3, 2, 1. We're gonna do one with it. It's a little effect. Okay. I like this little bus stop glass thing. Maybe you could do something with this. Check this out. But I have a little light. I think a red light would look cool somewhere. Like that.
No LED signs in windows, make your own.
Bam. Oh yeah, that looks fire, bro. Turn around, put your hand up against this. Yeah, that looks cool. Okay, there's a lot of reflections. Hold that, Emmy. Sweet. Here, what do you think? Not bad, right? Not bad, right?
It looks good.
The makeup looks great. Oh, you know what? No. Check it out. Let me see this.
What I just said on the
I was about to say, sit on the ground. Turn, look towards me. Oh, this is actually tough, babe. Hold on. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put this sideways and then turn the brightness down a little bit because I think it's a little too much. It's like a Billie Eilish kind of picture, bro. Okay, this will be a cool spot for the little lens. The hardest part is just keeping you in focus. We're gonna just set this right in front of it. Look to that way more, to your right more. There you go. All right, I'll wait 2 seconds for these people to walk by. Oh, damn. Okay, so the hard part about this is the focus. It goes, if it's out and then I push it, I move focus. So I can't touch the lens. 3, 2, 1. One more zoomed in. More to the right. There you go, hold that. 3, 2, 1. Okay. We got people walking behind you. We can wait 2 seconds. All right, now that our little mini photo shoot is over, I thought it would only be fair to show you guys how I edit these photos because I think these pictures themselves come to life in the editing process. Shooting on the Rebel T3i, the photos are alright. They're definitely amateur-ish looking. So I think a lot of the life and the personality really comes down to the edit. So I'm gonna show you guys how I did these pictures. So starting off with this image here, we're gonna go down to the bottom right, click reset, and then start from fresh. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do is bring up the exposure a little bit, possibly bring down the contrast, because I don't want the darks to be super dark. I'm gonna bring down the contrast a little bit, maybe even bring the shadows down a little bit too to exaggerate that. I say let's bring up the highlights a bit to pop a bit of the light that's coming through, and then along with the blacks, let's bring the blacks up a little bit as well. Now for the texture and clarity slider, my go-to, if you will. Bam, bam, creates a look that I like. That's all I need. Let's go to the very bottom in our calibration section. I go to picture there, and there. And I think for this image, I want to bring down the saturation a bit because I don't want all of that color coming through. After that, let's slide up to our tone curve, create 3 dots on our tone curve so we can manipulate those. And I think we're just going to do a regular S-shaped kind of tone curve. So let's bring up our highlights a little bit right there, maybe even a hair at the mid-tone just to show a bit of color, if you will. And then let's bring down our shadows so we can really exaggerate our highlights and shadows right about there. A small little S shape, nothing too crazy. Next up, let's go down to our color grading, select our shadows, and then for this image, I want to go more in the yellow kind of green, about there-ish. And then once you select it, you can go up and down on this little slider, and I think that is a correct amount of green. Go to our highlights, and then to counter the green, we're going to go into our blue area, find the sweet spot of blue. I like that. Go up and down on the slider till we find the blue that we like. Bam. Then after finishing that, the little eyeball right here, select it. You can see before and after how that is actually changing our image. A little bit of green, a little bit more warmth. I like it. So to even those colors out, let's go into our color mixer area. Maybe bring down the reds a little bit. We're gonna go down in the yellow saturation because I don't want too much yellow. It just looks kind of gross. I like to bring down my yellow a lot. Maybe even bring down my orange just a little bit right there so her skin tone isn't too crazy. Bring down the reds just a hair. Changing the blue a little bit, maybe a bit more teal. Aqua as well, maybe just a hair more teal. Can barely even see a difference, but trust me. And already a before and after is crazy. We fixed the skin tones, the white balance looks a lot better. We're adding a bit of style and personality with the green in the shadows and stuff like that. I'm liking it so far, but we're not done yet. Next, we're gonna go to the top right, select our masks, go linear gradient, and the light is coming in from the right side. So I'm gonna bring a linear gradient from the right here. Turn up my highlights a little bit to show that that's where the light's coming from. And then maybe a little bit of contrast just to add a little bit of depth. And then add another linear gradient with that on the opposite side that's kind of exaggerating the shadows. I'm gonna bring the shadows down on the other side like that. Maybe even a little bit of the exposure. Nothing too crazy, but just a little bit. I like that. And then I'm gonna pop the highlights just a little bit because there are some lights in this area. Going back to the top, I wanna add a little bit of warmth with my white balance here and then counter that with a bit of tint. Make it a little bit more green. And then to balance that out, let's go back down into our oranges, bring down the orange just a little bit so her face isn't too orange. And then quite possibly the biggest game changer when it comes to editing these photos specifically, check this out. Near the bottom here, we have a tab called Lens Blur. We're gonna click apply to the lens blur, and this is going to create basically a fake background blur to make our images look crazier than they actually are. So off rip, it's a little bit too much, as you can see, the before and then after. It adds a beautiful blur that I love, but you don't want to go too overboard with it. So the lens blur slider here, you can completely adjust how much blur you want and how little blur. So right here is a bit too much. We're going to find a happy medium. I think right there works. And that little lens blur, watch this, before, after, looks absolutely insane. You could do this in Photoshop. It would take you a lot longer time, but Lightroom does a fantastic job with finding the background, finding the foreground, and blurring how much you want. You could even change the shape of the bokeh. If you zoom into the left side, you can see, selecting a different one. This one has holes if you want holes in your bokeh. I personally don't. And then the last thing that I'll probably change is probably just your lens corrections. Enable profile corrections, and then change the distortion so it fits your picture. Maybe bring a little bit of vignette in there. Speaking of, let's go down to FX, adding a little bit more vignette. And then the very last thing that we're gonna do, scroll up a little bit to the noise reduction tab. We're gonna select denoise and then create the denoise amount to around 20. I found that 20 works for me. Select enhance, let that do its thing for a second. And you're gonna wanna denoise your pictures because shooting with these kit lenses, usually they only go down to around f5. And shooting at nighttime, you're gonna have to crank your ISO just to even see your image. So denoising is gonna help dramatically. And there you have it. We're completely done with this image. A bit of before and after. We fixed the white balance. We changed her skin tones, adding a bit of personality with the greens and the warmth. We had the linear gradients on the left and right, exaggerating the highlights and the shadows. I think this image came together beautifully. And for a kit lens, you really can't complain. The lens blur effect did a crazy amount. I'm absolutely in love with this image. But with that being said, let's move on to the next one. And here we have the second image. I have the red light on the left side, a bit of a moodier kind of edit. I have the little lens effect filter that I put on the front. I absolutely love how this image came out, and I'd love to show you guys how to edit it. So bottom right, we're gonna click reset and then start from fresh. First thing is the top right crop tool. We're gonna align this straight, make sure our image is straight, just like that. Bada bing, bada boom. Next up is our basic tab. We're gonna go a little bit brighter in the exposure, probably a bit more contrast because I really want to exaggerate this one. Bring the highlights up just a little bit. We're gonna bring down the shadows even more, around there, I'd say. And then my go-to with a clarity and texture, about there, looking good. So next thing I always do, to the very bottom, my calibration section, we're gonna click right there, and right there. Creates the colors that I like to work with. But for this one, the red is a little bit crazy on her face. So we're gonna bring down the saturation almost all the way. Then if you select the eyeball, you can see it before and after. It's already creating a bit of a moody look that looks absolutely amazing. Next up, we have our tone curve. We're gonna create our 3 points right about there. And then again, my normal S-shaped curve. We're gonna bring up the highlights a little bit, the mid-tones a little bit as well, and then probably bring down the shadows even more. I'm gonna bring up the exposure a little bit because I think it's getting too dark now. Then going down to our color grading tab, we're gonna select our shadows. Just like the other one, put the shadows in more of the yellowy, greenish kind of area about right there. Bring it down just a little bit because we don't want it too green. And then next, our highlights, same thing. We're gonna go to our blue area, find the blue that we like, and then go up and down, find that sweet spot. Bam, there we go. Again, before, after. It creates that moody cinematic look that I love. Now scrolling up to our color mixer, we're gonna bring down the yellows, exaggerating that orange a bit more, along with the saturation, because I don't want too much yellow in my image. Even bring the orange down a bit, because I don't want it too crazy. You can kind of see it in her face, too much, too less. You gotta find that sweet spot, probably around there. And we're gonna bring down the red as well, just a little bit. Now I don't want the red to be too crazy on her face, so we're gonna move our orange hue to the right a little bit, creating a bit more orange instead of that harsh red. And then our red slider, we're gonna find that sweet spot around +8-ish. I like how that looks. So far our image is looking good. A bit of before and after. We fixed the white balance, we changed her skin tones a little bit. We're adding a bit of personality again with the greens and the oranges. So far we're looking good, but there's a few more things we have to do. In the top right, select our masks. We're gonna go with another linear gradient. From the top right, we're gonna bring our highlights up like we normally do around there. But for this one, I wanna add a little bit more color to this image. So we're gonna go down to this section, find a blue that we like, adding a bit more green to it. And then in this little hue section, let's slide until we find a color we like around there. Perfect. And then going into our linear gradient tone curve, we'll select blue. Right in the middle here, we're gonna find a color that we like around there. Perfect. Now you can see before, after, it adds a bit of color. Maybe up in the whites just a little bit to pop the white even more. And then let's add a little bit more blue so we can exaggerate that color. And there we go. I like that. And then as you know, adding a second linear gradient on the other side, darkening the shadows just a little bit because the image is already pretty dark, but just a little bit more to exaggerate it. So we're almost done with this image, but there's 2 more crucial things I want to show you. Just like the last image, we're going to go down to the lens blur, select apply, let that do its thing for 2 seconds. So what we're going to do is go up in the blur amount slider. And by the way, please, for the love of God, do not use full blur. If you can tell and zoom in right here, there's a very, very harsh line that it creates. It's obvious that you're adding fake blur to your images, so only add a little bit and enough for it to pop. Let's bring this back down to 0 and just add enough to where it blurs it, but nothing too crazy as to where it looks fake. And around the 36 spot mark works for me. And then after that, the last couple of things that we're gonna do is scroll up to lens corrections, enable profile corrections, slide the distortion slider until it works for your image. Looks good there for me. Then also in this light right here, there's a little dark spot on the right side. So we're gonna quickly grab this, mask this out like that, fix that, bada bing, bada boom. And then the very last thing is we're gonna slide up to the noise reduction right here, just past it. Select 20 because that amount works for all of these images. Select enhance, let that do its thing, and then we're basically done. Now that we're all done, the before and after is crazy, seeing the amount of color that we added in the top right, exaggerating that color on her face, fixing the white balance a bit, her skin tone's looking good, adding the bit of personality and character with those greens and the warmth. I feel like this image came out beautifully, and for the fact that it's shot on a Canon T3i with a kit lens, obviously adding the lens blur effect adds a lot to it, but it looks pretty freaking good, I'm not gonna lie. And if you yourself want to edit some photos just like this with a lot more ease, down below I have my very own preset pack with 10 Lightroom presets compatible with the desktop and mobile versions, and then 10 original raw photos for you to play around and mess with. I spent a lot of time in this presets trying to hit every single avenue, whether that be portraits, landscape, automotive, have it all in here. And then not to mention, for the month of November and December, they're on sale, completely half off, 15 bucks, grab your own preset pack, you should be good to go. So moral of the story, you don't necessarily need a crazy camera setup to get amazing photos. There are a bit of challenges. I had a difficult time racking focus and then using little filters and such like that. That was a bit of a challenge, but you don't necessarily need a crazy camera setup to take beautiful images. Does it help? 100%. I was really missing my eye tracking autofocus. The more expensive your gear gets, the easier life gets for sure. But at the end of the day, when you're first starting out, the whole thing is creativity. And I feel like, me personally, rocking the Canon Rebel T3i, it challenged my creativity. I don't have a lot to work with and I'm very limited. So putting those challenges in front of me honestly made it more fun because I have eye tracking on my Sony. I have beautiful white balances and beautiful focus racking and all this such. So it makes my life easy. So challenging myself down to something like this is honestly a bit more fun in my opinion. But moral of the story, you can still take beautiful images with a very beginner setup. A lot of the time it kind of just boils down to the editing and taking your time with editing, skin tones, retouching, maybe using a little bit of the lights like we used at the photo shoot. But either way, hopefully you enjoyed the video and drop a comment down below if you want me to do a comparison video with my Sony a7 IV and my Canon Rebel T3i, comparing them back and forth to see how the image quality is, to see if it's worth the upgrade for you. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Peace out, baby.